Hello, kinship families from Catholic Charities. My name is Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about a few resources that you can use at home that are free that should help with school work, including and especially math. So, for those of you who are taking care of a child who is a school-age child, especially elementary school age, I am pretty positive by now that you've discovered that the math that they're teaching doesn't look like the math that we were taught in schools. It's changed tremendously in the past 10 years, and that's because of something called Common Core. I'm going to talk about Common Core for a little bit, and then we're going to go into some free resources that you can use because it's hard. We want to help our kids. We want them to be able to understand what's going on. We want to help them with their math questions. But goodness, it looks completely differently. Now, I used to be an elementary school teacher. I taught second graders, and then I became an instructional coach. And so I've worked with kids across all different grade levels and families and teachers to try and figure out how we can help bridge this divide of not knowing how to help our incredible kiddos with this new math that they're teaching. And I'm going to first sort of explain why there's a new math. And then we're going to look at two free resources that I used to recommend all the time in my classroom. And I'm hoping that maybe you'll feel comfortable by the end of this putting your child in front of a computer and logging onto one of these websites and letting them just play and explore and discover. But first, let's talk about Common Core. It used to be that the states each got to choose what they were going to teach children at each grade level. And because of that, it became problematic when kids would move around. When they move state to state, for instance, they might start teaching fractions in Massachusetts at second grade, but then they don't start until third grade in Arizona. And so because of that, and that's not true, I'm making that up, but because of those kinds of discrepancies, it made it hard for children to move and to be able to be caught up in school. It also meant that kids in different states were getting very different quality of education. They also looked and said, why are kids in other countries doing so much better than students in America? What's sort of behind this? It almost looks like we're backsliding in math skills, and what's causing that? And there are quite a few factors, but one is that we sort of taught tricks. Now, I don't know about you, but when I learned to subtract across multiple digits, I knew the routine of borrowing a 10 and adding it to the ones column, but I couldn't exactly explain what was going on. I didn't have a good understanding of the importance of place value and the value of each of those columns in a place value. And that's really what they're trying to enhance with Common Core, is a more conceptual understanding of what's going on behind the math and behind the math tricks. So that's why what we're teaching now looks so differently from maybe what we were teaching 10 years ago. And it makes it really hard to help. Luckily, there are a few resources that have been made available to parents, guardians, families. The resources I'm about to show you, the first one is completely free. The second one has some paid portions, but other free resources. And they have aligned themselves with Common Core, meaning that they can be resources to help build up the skills. Before we go any further, I want to sort of step onto my soapbox and try and convince anyone watching that it is fine to put them in front of a computer. First, many of our kids are still in school, but they are doing it remotely, And so we feel like, oh my goodness, they're already spending so much time in front of a screen. That can't be healthy for them. I understand that concern. It's a rough time right now. Hopefully they will be physically back in the school as soon as possible, as soon as it's safe, I should say. But whether they are attending school in person or remote, chances are that they still are supposed to be building math skills. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what skills the teacher is trying to have them reinforce through their homework. So I personally recommended that my students, even when they leave my classroom, even if they had a sheet of paper that was practicing addition, I almost begged my families to please encourage their children to spend at least 15 minutes a day playing math games. And we saw tremendous results in my classroom. It's because it's fun, it's engaging. What we're about to see, they've turned math into games that are highly engaging. The kids want to play them. And technology is not going away. We know that it might be contributing to sort of the idea of attention deficit, just a lot of stimulation coming from a screen. And I know it seems contrary because we've been hearing screen time is bad, but especially when working with Common Core math, anything we can do to engage the children is A-okay in my book. So I am an advocate for using the screen in order to help advance math skills. So that's just a little spiel. Common Core is changing things. That's why things look different. But the rationale behind it really is good-hearted and intentionally trying to benefit the children. It's not just to make our lives harder as caregivers. It's meant to be good, and it's just a new curriculum, so we're not expecting to see the positive effects of Common Core for another couple of years, and then we're hoping that once kids, we've been able to really track that change, that it'll be really good, and then we'll get more public support behind it. But in the meantime, we have some resources that we can use. And my all-time favorite free website, I'm not a spokesperson, but I love it, is called ABCYa. And I think that why I love this website so much is it's truly designed with kids in mind, but they also recognize that it needs to be a resource for parents, for teachers, for caregivers, and that Common Core really needed to be integrated because it's so confusing and challenging. So I am, what you see on my screen right now, I have it queued up to ABCYa.com. That's spelled ABCYA.com. And I could be pronouncing it wrong, but I've just always called it ABCYa. And I haven't heard it said any other ways in my academic circles. So when you log on to ABCYa, and you could log in, you could save progress, you could track like what standards your child is getting at, but there are also all these free resources. And truly, it's more about exposure to children. It's about reinforcing skills learned in the classroom. So there's no reason to get the paid version. But when you first log on, you're going to see a screen that looks something like this. At the very top of it, we see that there are breakouts of each grade level. And this website is for kids kinder through 6th grade. There are the 6+, they could be accessible for 7th and 8th graders. Also, this is the content level, an academic level. There is no shame if you have a child who's in 3rd grade and just, goodness, fractions are challenging. Fractions are introduced here in the, I think in the 1st grade reading, or in the 1st grade. So there's no shame in finding an easier version and building up those skills. We want all of these to be accessible and engaging. And if a child feels like it's too hard or that they're failing or it's too stressful, they're not going to play it. So there's no shame in going to an earlier or younger grade level to start with these skills and build up some confidence. But you can select, so we can enter in through a grade level, and that's what we're going to do. But first I'm going to show the rest of the main page. We have, they have different segments, so all about the alphabet. This is a really great resource. So many of these are so fun. If you'll notice, let's just start with ABC slider puzzle. It has a 1 and a 3. That's for the different grade levels that this game is sort of formatted in. So when we click on it, it's going to have us, do we want the first grade version or the third grade version? So as you'll see in Alphabetize, they have a kindergarten version and a second grade version. So if you don't want to go, I'm going to scroll up. It's going to be a little confusing for a moment, but if you don't want to start your game search by going into a grade level, what you can do is sort of find the skill that you're wanting to do. So if we're wanting to do the alphabet, then you can look and sort of see, well, which one has it in the grade level that my child is looking for. We have multiplication games. Get out and play. That's like learning about the environment around them. Fractions. And then we have games by subjects. So you'll see there are actually a lot of subjects, and they have wonderful resources in all of them. We have games by theme. So let's say that you have, my nephew loves robots. So if I come here, the first thing I might do is scroll down to this games by theme and go into robot games, because goodness knows that that's how I'm going to engage him. So it doesn't really matter the skill set. I just want him to be doing academic material, and I know he's going to like robots. I can come in and do any of these games. But let me go back. So right now I am in the theme robots, but now I'm back in the main page. I'm going to continue scrolling down. Sorry if I'm scrolling too quickly. These are what we saw already. Games by subject, games by theme, games by genre, so what kinds of games. Some of the games could be a little stressful. So like one of my favorite is like a monster fighting where these like zombies are coming toward you and you have to solve math problems to keep them away. But that might be stressful. Or maybe your child really, really likes racing games or, puzzle games. You can go in according to type of games and sort of reduce that stress. And then we've just got the bottom and some ways to access, but I'm guessing that you won't need that down there. So I'm going to go all the way back up to the top. And because I'm a second grade teacher at heart, I'm going to go into second grade. So from here, you can see that you can search by any of the things we've seen before, the different subjects. We have second grade word games. These are all free, including so many. I've loved these parts of Speech Quest. It's sort of like, like a mix between like Zelda and Mario, and playing the games to learn the parts of speech. I find that to be super fun. Got second grade math games. There's just so many options, so many fun things, and these are put together by educators. So they are valuable and helpful. One other last thing I wanted to show you is that in the Common Core, we have things called standards. So that's sort of the objective, what we're trying to teach. And so your teachers might be able to tell you, Like, oh, your child, let's go into second grade. Once again, I'm very biased. Your child is struggling with, this specific standard in language arts. You can go in here and find the standards. So like there's a standard on reading informational text, and you can break it down. You can ask your teachers exactly what standards should my child be working on, and you can find them here. Click on it. So let's say your teacher said, he's low on informational text reading. And then you go, great. Okay, so I know I need informational text reading support. I don't know what to do. Luckily, we have ABCYa. So then you can go, oh, well, let's do determine the meaning of words and phrases in text relevant to second grade content. You can go in here, click on it, and there are 2 games that would be great. So this is just another tool. So I got there by going to Common Core Standards. I'm just going to go back to the main page. So this is ABCYa. This is my favorite. Even if it looks like your child is playing too much of a game, I promise that there's an educational component behind it, and it's going to be helpful. ABCYa has everything. Now we're going to look at one that's specifically targeted to math. And I think I lied to you before. I think my favorite, the zombie chasing game, is actually in this one. I'm so sorry about that. I'm just realizing that. So now I'm in a different website. Oops, and I'm scrolled down, so that is not what you would see when you first log on. Okay, now we're up to the top of the page. So this one is called MathGames. Very simple and easy to remember. It's mathgames.com. I'll say that again, mathgames.com. That's it. It is very targeted toward the specific math skills. I highly suggest it, but it's not my favorite one. And it's not my favorite because only about half of the games are available for free. That's fine. I had this set up on all of my classroom computers. My students would self-select into this during when they had any free time, and they were just fine playing the free versions. But let me quickly show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. Do you see here how some of them have stars? The ones that have stars, you need to have a subscription in order to access. The ones without stars are completely free. If you have the resources and your child is loving it, they've been using this for a month and it's just you're seeing advances in their math skills, it might be worth considering. But really, truly, there are so many options here that don't have stars that are free to use. So just make sure before you get them excited about a game that it's not one of the ones with the stars. Once again, the ones with the stars you have to pay or you have to have a subscription to. The ones that don't have stars are completely free. I might have just said that backwards. Sorry, friends. Okay. So with this one as well, you can search according to skill, game type, or grade level. And those we're going to see up at the top, but we'll also see it as we scroll down. So we're going to do another just sort of look. So at the very top, that's usually how I access things. Once again, we see that fancy word standards. It means it's linked to the academic standards, which are Common Core. Okay, so we've got math games. You can go by grade level. If you see, they have like the number of skills that they learn. So in pre-kindergarten, it's 34 skills that are, options. And then you can go in by skills. So sometimes this is how I start. I start by skills because I don't really know where my students are, especially when they first come into my classroom. And they might be at different levels for each skill, and I never want a child to feel ashamed. So let's say your child is in second grade, but doesn't have a lot of fact fluency. They can't add quickly. I might not put them in a second grade game because they might not feel successful. They might be a little embarrassed. The zombies might get them. They might be moving too quickly. So if you want to just go by skill, that's great, and you can start easier and then progress to harder. And then we've got worksheets, but that only is good if you have a printer. Anyway, sorry, I'm not showing you everything. It's more about, the subscription. And, oh, I should not go over this too much. The Common Core math can be really hard. The internet is going to be your friend in helping your child. Little quick side from this website. If your child doesn't know how to do something and you don't know how to help them, I would Google it. I would go to YouTube. You could come here and look at these tutorials. They are making videos and resources for parents. They've just been slow in coming out, and unfortunately you have to seek them out. You have to try and find the resources to help you, which I know in the moment when you have a child who's asking you a question, it's not easy to say, I don't know what your teacher means by that, so I'm going to ignore everything else I have on my plate, pull up my computer, Google it, watch a few different YouTube videos, try and figure out. It's stressful and it's hard, and I know it's cumbersome, but that is one way to try and help. But there are math tutorials here where they show the concepts in a really great way. So you can always explore those. But I'm going to go all the way back up to the top. Sorry, I'm scrolling too quickly and making anyone feeling a little nauseated. Okay. I like to go by grade level sometimes, or skills, as I was mentioning. I'm going to go into second grade because I know the zombie game is there because that was my student's favorite. So I went to grade level, and because I'm very biased, I'm going to go to second grade. And you can look at what they're trying to learn. We can do measurement, fractions, geometry, addition, and let's say, okay, we want to add one-digit number to a two-digit number, and I love that it pops up with the example. So you can sort of match what you're seeing in the homework that they've been bringing home recently to what's popping up here. And the way they broke it up is all based on Common Core. So evaluate. So we can find different ways of understanding, and then we can play this skill in a game. And so it has some options, or we can go to play more games. And this is my favorite, zombie math. So that's what we're going to look at for a moment. It's going to load. And here it is. You can just start the game. You can see I've played it before because it says continue. You have to select grade level and skill. Let's do addition. So there's a lot of time, but there's scary music. But if you get it right, the zombie disappears. Okay. So that is one of my favorites. Once again, it's just practicing a very simple skill, but there's like enough tension that I find that kids are doing it. But as you saw, it was just doing the math. So it's very educational. All right, so I've showed you two different websites. We have ABCYa, and that's ABCYa.com. and that's free. And then we have MathGames that has the free options. That's the one, though, where if it has a star, that means you need to subscribe in order to play that one. But the ones without a star are completely free. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching this tutorial on these free websites.